Yes, record the awesomeness. That is me.
Or the awesomeness that is this particular skill series, which the students are here to see, and not you.
Oh
All right,
yeah. Well,
that's
they were
oh that too.
they were expecting to see Aaron anyway, so
That's right. Yeah, you look a little rough around the edges there, Dr. Muskowski. Uh, so anyway, welcome everybody. Sorry, got to rein in my colleague here. Welcome to the Employability Skill Series, where we explore the top skills employers are looking for in candidates. Each week, we will cover a different topic with thoughts and insights from professionals in a variety of industries. I am your host, Watson-Morrow, Associate Director of Business Careers, and today I have not Dr. Aaron Muskowski, but rather Dr. Jovan Reyes, Senior Associate Director of Career Services, with me as my guest as we discuss communication skills in the workplace and why they are important. Dr. Muskowski was called away for jury duty, so Dr. Reyes has very accommodating. What is that? Adaptability, which is another one of our skills we're going to talk about. So thank you so much for being here. Students that are new to the call, I have on the screen, you'll see, is this being shared still, Jovan, my poster?
yes, that
Okay.
is correct.
You can scan the QR code for your attendance. I also put the link in the chat pod in case you're on your phone and you can't do the scan. But if you are looking to get credit for your Business 1115 class, you do need to make sure that you mark your attendance, as that does get sent to your professors. All right, with that little bit of housekeeping out of the way, this is recorded. All right, Jovan, thank you so much for being here today. Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself as we get started?
Yes, definitely. Well, thanks for having me. Thanks everyone for being here on a early Tuesday morning. It's early for some, okay? Uh, so I've been at FSC for now 3 years as of this month. Previously, I was at Hillsborough Community College. I ran a $6 million 5-year grant to help students get through STEM related majors to get STEM related careers. I worked at University of Tampa for about 8.5 years as the academic advising person over there. But I've been in higher education. I just look really young, but I'm really old. I've been in higher education for 20 plus years now, and been hanging out with Professor Morrow for the last couple, so it's been a good time.
You don't look that young, by the way.
Oof,
Oh, all right. Just kidding. Or am I?
you can
All
have it.
right. Take it. Guys, Dr. Yovan and I, we work really closely together, and our banter is quite strong. We enjoy it. We love it. It keeps us young while we are working and working with you guys. All
This is
right.
true.
This is very true. Well, I have enjoyed working with you. This is our third year together. And so today we are talking about communication and just kind of how it's so like super important. As I look at any kind of job description at all when I'm working with students or just kind of perusing around, I always see excellent verbal and written communication as requirements. So let's just kind of start there, just like basics, I guess. Why is communication so incredibly important when working together in a team?
No, it's huge. I feel like it's probably the foundation of everything that we do together. And I think part of that is like having that honest, clear communication with each other. Like Professor Morrow said, like we spend a lot of time with each other. If you really think about it, like we work as much at our job that we do as when we're home. It's kind of the American way, unfortunately, that we spend so much time at our jobs, whether that be remote, whether that be in person. Unfortunately, as educators, we are mostly in person, even though now we're doing virtual. But we're mostly in person. So having that clear, open, honest communication is huge when, if we have to, do workshops, if we have to do events, and that could be verbal, it can be nonverbal. There's a whole bunch of different types of communications, which you probably will go through. But yeah, so no, super important. And I talk about having an open door policy, with my, not just with my, faculty and staff, but with students. And I've realized over the years, like that open door concept is not really an open door either because students or faculty staff like they still have to walk through that door, and it's like it can be kind of intimidating. Like, should I go see this, Dr. Reyes? And a lot of you guys can just call me Yovan. Like once you get to know me, it's all fine, it's all good. But before you do that, it could be kind of intimidating and it could be kind of weird. Um, so I appreciate that, our staff, like whenever we see an open door, we go through it, we go talk to each other. We message each other in teams, quick phone call. Any way to get a line of communication open is just huge.
Yeah, I like how you talked to, there's different modes of communicating. Like we use Teams a lot, which is like, instant messaging or texting. Of course, there's email, there's face-to-face, there's, phone calls. But to kind of drill the point home about communication, like you have to, I like how you said to like, make sure like as they get to know you, they could call you Yovan. As students, and if you're coming into, working with professors, or as you start working with CEOs and higher ups in companies, you want to be careful that you're not too familiar too quickly.
Yeah.
You want to make sure, how does the person introduce themselves? So, if Yovan were to come into the class and introduce himself as Dr. Reyes, then you would want to refer to him as Dr. Reyes until he says, hey, no, call me Yovan. I was raised that way too. Like at home, like when I would meet my friends' parents, I always had to say, Mr. Mrs. Reyes, if I was meeting you for the first time. I was never allowed just to be like, oh, hey, Yovan, hey, Danny, until if you're my friend's parents, if you're an adult, it always had to be Mr. Mrs. until they said, oh, please call me, Megan, please call me, Van, please call me Danny. And it's the same when you're communicating with people that are in, authority or higher up in the leadership chain, whether it's at work or here at the university. You want to be careful that you're like Professor, Josie or
Mhm.
Dr. Tracy or, anything like that until they say, oh no, please call me, Megan, please call me Mike, anything like that. So I think that's super important to be able to communicate. But another thing that you said too about just like getting to know you, like I think it's really important too that we stress the importance of knowing your audience.
Mhm.
So, for you and I, Evan, like when we first started, a lot of people probably don't know this because we get along so well now, but like we were oil and water when we first started. Absolutely. Our communication was just like, and we would take things wrong, and we're being sarcastic, we're being funny, we're joking around, but we didn't know each other well enough. And I think it caused us to like have to have a steeper learning curve to get to
Mhm.
know each other and then get to that basis of familiarity. So you have to be very careful about making sure that you know your audience and being able to read the room on how you communicate.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sure you've had that experience as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, and that's the thing for you guys that don't know if, if they're a professor, a mister, a miss, like I get misconstrued a lot for being Mrs. Reyes. Because no one knows who Yovan is. If you've never seen the name before, you have no idea. So if you're not sure, I mean, just quick Google search. Google is our friend. Ahead of time, it'll take you 5 seconds. But, a safe bet is to go with Professor Morrow, Professor Reyes, and then they'll correct you. You'll see it in their signature line. Typically, most people that you email will have a signature line. And I definitely, I implore you guys to do the same. And it can be just quick, simple, easy. If you're part of fraternity, sorority, you can put that on there. If you have a position of some sort, if you're part of like a group or, organization, it doesn't hurt. But usually, I'll put that Mr. or Doctor or, Professor in front of, somebody's name. Um, and like I said, if you don't know, do a quick search. But going back to kind of your question is like, yeah, you and I, we tend to get friendly really quick with people. I feel like, and so that's a good and a bad thing.
Mhm.
Because when we tried, like you said, when we tried to get friendly really quickly, it was like, oh man, like we're both kind of clashing. But then we figured it out, and over time, we kind of learned each other's strengths and weaknesses. And we kind of just played on those, and we just build our relationship really well after that. Sometimes you don't get that much time to do that. So you kind of want to try to rein it in a little bit quicker than usual, depending on who your audience is and who you're talking to, for sure. Yeah.
Definitely, for sure. And most of the students on our call today, I recognize most of their names. I think these are most of the freshmen. So, this will
Mhm.
be your first time communicating with professors. And even as you start looking for internships, people who are hiring managers or recruiters or CEOs or owners of companies. So it is very important that you take that extra step to make sure that you know who the person is that you're addressing and how you should address them. Like Yovan was saying, always err on the side of caution. You could Google them. A lot of times people nowadays with all this gender fluidity, their signature line will have pronouns and they'll say he, she, or him, him, or he, or whatever. So just be very careful. But one thing I do want to stress, like this is not high school anymore. And I did teach high school for several years and I never got Miss Morrow. I always got Miss. And that is incredibly disrespectful. If the teacher can learn your name and they have 150 something students, like I have 177, if I can try to learn your name and you only have 5 professors, you can learn that professor's name. So don't make that mistake of being that familiar where you can just be like, in class, like, hey, miss, no, it needs to be Professor Morrow or Professor Reyes or Professor whoever it is you're addressing. Unless again, they say, oh, please just call me Joe, please call me Megan. But again, not that Miss or Sir or Mr. part, because that is just laziness, honestly. That is not professional communication at all, to not even try to learn the person's name that you're speaking with. And then,
Yeah, and a lot of professors kind of get upset about it too.
oh
Like
yeah,
I've never been that, I don't want to say pretentious, but I've never been that way like about my, like getting the doctor part is super, I get it. It takes a lot of time, research, a lot of work and effort. And so I get that whole thing with professors and why they get upset about it. And you'll find people like me that who don't. But you
mhm,
like like she said, you want to err on the side of caution with that. So I mean, if you call someone doctor, like a lot of people when I wasn't a doctor yet, they'd call me Dr. Reyes or even Dr. Morrow. And I kind of make fun of people. I'm like, no, she's not a doctor yet. Just call her professor. Like, don't give her that title. But it's okay to do that. It's better like with an interview, right? It's better, or when you're going out somewhere, like it's better to dress up than dress down,
yes,
right? So
mhm,
you want to like err on the side of caution. If you over call somebody something, if you call them doctor and they're not, it's not a big deal. Like it's just like, oh, it's okay. Like, I'm just professor or just Mr. whatever is fine, you know?
yeah, I'll find that too. Like people don't get upset if you over
Right.
qualify them, but you want to be careful if somebody is doctor and you're like, hey, sup, bro? And they'd be like, no, that's Dr. Reyes to you. So yeah, I would just be careful and just follow the lead of the person that's in the higher position than you and how they address you. And I think that you'll be okay. Um,
Mhm.
let's jump over to written communication though, because I think this is also huge in how we communicate. And I want to quick show you what not to do. So
Mhm.
my students always get a big kick out of this when I show this to them. So I'm going to stop sharing the poster screen, but I will come back and share it again if anybody needs that for the attendance.
Mhm.
But let me find my this is there it is. Email. I literally named this email no. Okay. So a little background. This is what I got. This is an actual email, ladies and gentlemen, that I received from what I deduced later on was from actually someone who had graduated back in 2002. There is no greeting. There's no nothing. There's no introduction. There's no nothing. First of all, this is exactly what I get. I was trying to grasp at anything that will help me land a better job as in career opportunity, not as I'm flipping burgers or digging ditches. I've already done that. As you look at this, I mean, look at she capital. I mean, she's yelling at me. This person is
Mhm.
like legit yelling at me over text when you do all capitals like that. All these like ellipses here. This is incredibly unprofessional. She's like, asking me like all these kind of like rhetorical questions. She is again capitalizing things. And then she goes on, this becomes very aggressive. Like I've tried to work at all these places. And then she starts listing this stuff, boring IT entry. Oh my goodness. She talked on being, she was not picked even after high school. I mean, like it's very aggressive. And she ends it with, I'm just frustrated being 44 years old and feeling not wanted and useless. No signature. Again, no closing. There's no greeting. There's no closing. There's no nothing. This is incredibly unprofessional. This is exactly what you would not want to do. So feeling a little lost, and actually before I responded, I reached out to a couple of my colleagues that were on our team that are no longer with us. And I was like, hey, by any chance, did you happen to work with this person? Because she did attach her resume, which showed that she had a graphic design degree. So I reached out to see if anybody in like that particular major was working with them from our department. There were no, don't know this person whatsoever. So of course I respond back, and I only knew her name was Jane because I got it from her resume, which of course I changed the name. That's not her real name. I'm happy to help, caught me off guard. I don't know where to start, basically. And then I had my full signature. And then this is how she responds. Just, hi, I'm Jane. Yep, you don't know me yet. And again, she doesn't explain anything. She just kind of just dives right into her woe is me. This comes across very victim, very much like she's owed something, and it's up to me to pay her. This is the feeling I'm getting from this email. She continues on. You can kind of read this as I'm talking. Again, more with the capital letters. I mean, she's yelling. There's a lot of spelling. There's some grammar in here that is also not well. Then she goes on, why she would not be surprised, and she doesn't like feeling like she's 40 and not wanted, and then going on, and then she was on to say, don't be afraid to text or call. And I was like, I'm quite terrified. Like, there's no way I am texting or calling this individual. I gave her quite another response as best as I could, again keeping my professional demeanor in my communication. Even though I don't know this person, I've never met her, I give her as much as I possibly can. I even attach a job description, and I kind of give her some recommendations and things that I could do. And then this last one is still, it just cracks me up. I mean, just very unprofessional. There's, like I said, there's spelling, there's grammar. If you look at this sentence here, she's like, the problem down here, the second paragraph. The other problem, I believe, is I'm marketing to a higher manager that don't know nothing about design. Again, look at all this crazy grammar, question mark, ellipsis, not capitalizing, bad grammar. I mean, this was terrible. This was the end of the communication between this particular person and I. I didn't end up responding back again because I really didn't feel like there was anything to respond back to. But this would be a kind of email that you might send that would not get any type of response. Yovan, how would you handle if you received something like this?
Yeah, I mean, so Takara, so we have another business internship individual in the School of Business for you guys, Miss Takara Graham. And so she had an email from a student that just like said, hey, and had like misspellings and all these other things. And I'd like you, I responded back to that email. But at the end, I kind of put PS. I would prefer a more professional email from you in the future. First of all, don't call me hey. We don't know each other like that. Second of all, like use Grammarly. It's a free software that you can put on your computer. Use like Microsoft Word, like tells you if your text is off or whatever the case may be. Use something to stop misspellings and whatnot. Try not to use voice to text often. And if you are, like, make sure you double check what you're
Proofread.
writing,
Yeah.
So I call students out a lot. As I've gotten older, I've gotten more brave and more just calling students out and being like, hey, look, this learning experience needs to happen sooner than later. So I mean, you're a better person than I to let that go on as long as you did. I mean, it was super professional how you wrote it out, and you would hope like, she would, kind of copy what you did, learning by doing type of deal. But it didn't like she got the hint. So typically that's why I'm a little bit more straightforward with being like, hey, we need to fix A, B, C, and D. I'll still answer your question. I'll still work out with you. But we need to fix all these things before we communicate again.
Yeah, especially because that was our first interaction and only interaction was the written communication between us. So that is a barometer that people are going to judge you off of. And if you can't take the time to proofread and make sure that you're spelling and that your grammar and that you're actually like, conducting this email in something that is going to be seen as professional, if you can't take the time, then that is giving a first impression to someone who is not good. It's not going to be good. I mean,
Yeah.
like my reaction to that email was like, who is this person? And if she's going to yell at me like this over email, imagine if I did call her. Imagine if she came into my office. How is she going to represent at a job interview. There's no way that I would feel comfortable putting my backing behind a candidate like that, or reaching out to any of our employers or any of our partners saying, hey, I have this candidate that I think that you should interview, because of the way that she interacted with me. I'm afraid she's going to interact with, an employer like that. And that's representation of Florida Southern, and that's not good. So when you're
Yeah,
communicating, yeah, you have to put your
that's
best foot forward.
yeah, that's a solid point. I mean, we communicate with so many people, and I probably should explain what I do at Florida Southern a little bit to you guys. I mean, I missed that part, but I do employer relations for the college, and so if you went to like our student employment fair last week, or see that we have like mocktails networking nights coming up and things like that. So I kind of connect with a lot of the employers, and so does Professor Morrow when we do like these campus to corporate tours. To kind of go and see a day in the life. So I mean, we interact with a lot of employers. We recommend and refer a lot of our students when we see positions come through. So that's a really great point, is that it would be really hard for me to recommend that student to someone and be like, hey, this is a good candidate for this position. Which is another reason why I kind of call out students way ahead of time. Because my name's on the line, and as well as Florida Southern. But I like my name a lot too. So I try to, yeah, I know. So I try to, make sure that, they're gonna speak the same way as I would to an employer, to make sure that I can keep that relationship going, you know?
Oh, absolutely. That if that email had come across CEO or hiring manager, or recruiter's desk, they just would have gotten deleted. It wouldn't have
Oh
even,
yeah.
yeah, nobody would have even responded. I felt obligated to respond simply because she was a Florida Southern grad, and we do want to continue to help our alumni even after, even 20 something years later. We want to be here for everybody. But it's that kind of old saying, like, you can't help someone who doesn't want to help themselves. So,
Yeah.
you can only do so much, but just understand that that is the first impression that people are going to get from you. And I'd like to share the example that Erin normally shares when she does this call with me. This is one of her passionate topics, but again, like, she got pulled away to jury duty. But she was advertising for a position, and in a previous role that she had reached out to like 3 different candidates, and she normally kind of shows you the emails. But well, the point is that, like, she reached out to a couple different candidates, introducing herself as Dr. Erin Miskowski. This was her ABC role at ABC Company, and they had this position open, and they were, are you still interested? Would you like, to interview? Do you have? And then she even listed some spots. Do you have like Tuesday 9 a.m., Wednesday 2 p.m., or something like that, right? So the one person that responded back, her response was just, yes, 9 a.m., Tuesday works. That was it. Nothing like, good morning, Dr. Miskowski, because her signature was Dr. Miskowski. It was just, yes, 9 a.m. Wednesday. And it's like, well, we're not friends. This was a professional potential, new employer. This could be, she was communicating with what was potentially going to be her future boss. And to be that informal was a major turnoff. So a response to something like that would be, good morning or good afternoon, Dr. Miskowski. Thank you so much for, the invitation, the consideration. This is my availability. I'm very interested, something along those lines. A greeting cannot be understated. Until you have communicated back and forth several times, that kind of formality does start to drop off. But in the beginning, if I reach out to someone, my signature says Megan Morrow, Associate Director, MS, all the goodies. And so somebody could easily come back and just be like, hey, Megan, because I don't have Miss or Mrs. or Doctor or anything in front of my name. So that would be understandable. But if it says like Dr. Yovan Reyes, you would need to respond with Dr. Reyes and then your greeting. And then at the end, when the signatures kind of start to drop off, if say like you signed it Yovan or something like that, then that would be completely understandable to the next email, like, hey, Yovan. And even then the highs and the good mornings and the hope this is finding you well, that stuff also starts to drop off. But that beginning, that first communication really sets the tone for
Yeah.
that first impression and what people are going to see you as, whether it's in person or whether it's via email.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Think of it like an essay, right? When we did essays in like high school and stuff, like your emails will have like a beginning. So the beginning is like your salutation, or your intro. so you'll have that salutation. Then you've got your body, and then you've got your closing. It's the same as any other thing that you would write an essay for. So just think about it like that, to kind of dumb it down a little bit, like how emails should be written. You'll have three parts to it, you know. And no, that we had a meeting with Ag America yesterday. They're one of our donors. We had a lunch meeting, and the one thing that they talked about the most was about email communication and how students type. They find it hilarious that students type like with like one finger. I guess they don't take
Cutting back,
keyboarding or typing classes in high school anymore. I don't really know, but
that in
and a
cursive.
lot of yeah, and a lot of yeah, in cursive, yeah, and a lot of things are just voice to text. So I guess they don't know how to type, so they find it funny that that piece of it. But still, the one thing that they wanted to harp about the most was email communication. Students don't know how to write an email, and I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. Like it's got to be the simplest thing, and so we're starting to talk about it more and more because it's becoming more and more prevalent that our students don't know how to do it. So we're trying to, talk about it as much as we can and do that communication as much as we can. So
Oh, absolutely. And if you're still on the call and you're in my class, we will talk about that at length. We will go over that same email again, because again, I use it as part of my curriculum, because that was a real life event. I couldn't make that up if I tried. But that's, yeah, it was such a turn off. It was just, I mean, it was enough where I was like, kind of like, am I being punked? Because it's like, there's no way that an actual adult, this wasn't a young person. I mean, not that 40 is old. I'm in the 40 club, but I'm saying like, it's not like not like a youngin coming right out of high school who is figuring this out on their own for the first time. This person had been in the workforce for over 20 years. And
yeah,
so it's like, that was just such a negative first impression. It's so negative that I'm still talking about it a year later, and
yeah,
kind of how flooring that was. And that is what will happen, and if it's an in-person, meeting for the first time and you're not making eye contact, or, you don't shake hands, or you have a weak handshake, or, you're kind of standing all closed off and weird and stuff like that. Again, that's communicating so much. Like your actions, your tone, your facial expressions, all of that communicates way more than the words that you actually say. And so that's why this is such a pivotal piece. We don't realize that we're doing it. We're walking around with scowls on our faces because we're focused, or maybe we're practicing for a test and you're ruminating the information in your head, or you're ticked off about parking, because we all know that's, nothing that ever gets anybody upset about on this campus.
yeah,
um or you're
yeah.
cold,
No,
or you're tired, or all these things. And then you get lazy either with your appearance, or you get lazy in your emails, and you want to just be like, hey, what did we miss? You're emailing a professor maybe for the first time. I missed class yesterday, what did I miss? That's, you're not going to get the response back versus, good morning, Professor so and so, I apologize for missing class, could you please tell me what I missed? Thank you so much, have a nice day. Something along those lines are going to get, it's that old adage of like getting more flies with honey than vinegar. And that kind of comes across in the way you communicate.
yeah, I was like, nonverbal communication is a whole nother presentation.
Oh, big time.
Um, and I am the pro at nonverbal communication. I say 1,000,001 words with just this face, and usually it's not a good thing. Um,
That's
when
what I'm
I'm
glad to
upset,
hear.
I mean, if you guys saw me during orientation, like if you guys came in and saw me in the grass, I was so upset about my shoes when you guys were checking in Branscombe lot. I don't know if anyone saw me, but
Six thirty
I was,
a.m. Yeah, it was
oh yeah, it
6:30
was super
a.m. I was
early.
there.
Yeah, it was super early. I didn't know I was gonna be in the grass with my new white shoes, and I was like, oh man, I didn't say anything, but my face said it all. And people knew that, and I felt bad because I knew that too. And it's something that I'm trying to work on, even in my early 40s. I'm still working on it, but that's a whole nother presentation entirely. But yeah, I mean, touching base with your professors is probably the first and like utmost thing to talk about, like for your college experience. Like if you miss class, if you have questions, even if you just want to talk to them, like they're gonna remember you, they're gonna want to talk to you, they're gonna want to give you a better grade. They're gonna want to help you out if you communicate with them more so than anyone else. So like Bobby Diaz, like I'm gonna remember you, man, because you got your full name on there, iPhone 22. I don't know who you are. But I mean, one of these days you'll find me and you'd be like, hey, I was that person.
I was
But
iPhone 22.
yeah, so So even like virtual communication, this is one of those things. Like when we're on calls and stuff, like not this call, but other calls, like make sure that you're on screen, that you have a blurred background maybe, or have a nice background. People can hear you, see you, well. Have your full name on there, things like that. So that's a whole nother conversation too. Not just in-person communication or email, but nonverbal and virtual, and there's just so many different types. It's just super important and it's a lot, but you'll figure it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many ways to communicate for sure. We're kind of coming to an end here, Given. Do you have
Yep.
any last minute kind of words of wisdom or tips or something like that for students as they start kind of thinking about how they communicate, whether it's going to be virtually, over email, text, or in person?
You always ask that question about words of wisdom at the end, and I always want to come up with something clever and like I feel like everyone has like quotes and just like awesomeness, and I have nothing. I never think about this until the end. Um,
And ironically, I ask you every time.
I know. And so it's like I should know this, but I don't. I, I think we kind of covered all of it, honestly. I think the biggest thing is like if you really have any questions, if you really need anything, it doesn't hurt to ask. The worst anyone can say is no, about anything in life. It could just like it could be about literally anything. Just ask, and just try to come up with the courage and just talk to somebody. Or if you don't want to do that, you can definitely email us. Sometimes you can even text us if you find our phone numbers. So it just depends. Well, we do have a text communication system, so sometimes we do text you guys, but just reach out and talk to us if you need anything whatsoever. We're here for you. This is our job. This is what we do. We love what we do. It's never a dull moment. So definitely hit us up. Let us know what you need, and we're here for you.
Thank you so much, Jovan. Yeah, just to reiterate that, please, if you have any questions or concerns or comments or anything, we are just a phone call, email, or an office drop in away. We do want to help. That's what we're here for, or we wouldn't be here because we absolutely do love what we do, and working with you guys is what we kind of live for. So we're here for you. Thank you so much for joining us on our first employability skill series of the fall 2024 term. Very exciting. If you did not log your attendance, it is in the chat pod. There's a link you can click, and I still have the QR code up on the screen. Please make sure that you log your attendance if you are needing the credit for the Business 1115 course. I will also share this recording with your professors as well. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have a great rest of your second week of school, and we'll see you guys next week on the next employability skill series where we're going to talk about teamwork.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming. All right, everybody, have a great day.
See ya.